G'day and welcome to Beyond Sobriety, a podcast where you'll hear real stories of recovery and resilience come to life. I'm Michael and I'm an alcoholic, your host and fellow journeyer on the road to sobriety. As someone who has walked the path of addiction and found solace in the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, I understand the challenges and triumphs that come with striving for sobriety. And it's with this understanding and empathy that we've created this podcast. Our purpose here at Beyond Sobriety is simple yet profound: to provide a platform where individuals can share their experience with alcoholism openly and authentically. Through candid conversation, personal narrative, and expert insights, we aim to inspire hope, foster understanding, and offer a beacon of light to those still navigating the shadows of addiction. We'd love for you to be a part of this growing community. If you find value in the stories that you hear today, please consider liking and leaving a comment and sharing this episode with somebody who might benefit from hearing it. Your support will help spread the message of hope and resilience to more people who need it. I'm Michael and I'm an alcoholic, and this is Beyond Sobriety. Yeah, g'day. Look, we're here with Denise. Denise, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Denise, and I'm a recovering alcoholic. I live in Gilbert, Arizona, and I've been sober for almost 14 years.
Outstanding. Look, 14 years is a massive achievement. Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
Can you describe the attitude towards alcohol in your family when you were a child growing up?
Well, I come from a long line of redneck alcoholics, good old boys hunting, fishing. So alcohol was very prevalent on my dad's side of the family. On my mom's side, it wasn't at all. Both my two sisters and I are in recovery. All of us are in recovery right now.
So how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have two younger sisters.
Two younger sisters, and you're all in a recovery program?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you had your first drink?
I was 14.
14? Can you describe that for me, please?
So I hung out with older kids. I started school a year early, so everybody was a year older than me. And I had a friend who had gotten married very young at 16. And she said, let's go up to the liquor store and get a pack of cigarettes. So in those days, in the 70s, you could go up as kids and get cigarettes. So I said, okay. And she said, but first we're going to make a drink. And I said, okay. So she made me a 7 and 7. And I took a drink of it. It was like so gross. But then I was like, this is what dreams are made of. And I gulped the rest of it down. So you can imagine, two 14, 16-year-olds walking downtown in the 70s with their tube tops on and their drinks and their cigarettes. So that's how I got started drinking.
You would have been feeling like a millionaire.
I felt like I was in Hollywood, for real.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, you're going to have to describe to me something. It might be a cultural thing, but what's a 7 and 7?
7-Up and Seagram 7.
Okay, 7 and 7. Okay, I haven't heard of that one. I've heard of most of the drinks. I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah.
Outstanding. I've talked to a lot of people and they describe that the first time they drank, they were addicted and they were hooked from the word go. And I've also spoken to a lot of people that it wasn't that case. How was it for you?
So I think that was the catalyst for my drinking career. I didn't drink heavily, but all through high school, I was the one who got other people to buy us booze, went to parties. I kind of reeled it in because I felt like my mom had enough to deal with my dad. She didn't need, a teenager that was drinking, but everything that we did involved alcohol.
Yes.
Everything.
So did you find yourself being the one that would always, source the alcohol? Was it you at the, everybody at teenage parties that they get drunk? Was that you kind of initiating that?
Oh, yeah, that was all me. Absolutely.
Would you describe your drinking in your teenage years in high school as typical, like just on the weekends, or was it a problem back then?
No, it was pretty typical. My drinking did not take off till a very late age.
So you got through your high school okay?
Yes.
Or what we'll call high school. Did you go to college, uni?
I did do some college. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Then after that, you settle down. There was a period of my time where I just partied all the time. I was a young adult. I wasn't 21, but we could still get the booze. Every night we were partying.
Yeah. At what point did you realize that drinking was a problem?
So I have 4 children and I was always pregnant or breastfeeding. So during that time, I would not drink. And, I went through life like that. And I would party when I wasn't breastfeeding or I wasn't pregnant. And my husband would always say the first time, once I got pregnant, you need to stop drinking. Yeah, I know. So my 4th child had a lot of medical problems and he could not breastfeed. So I didn't have that cushion. So now I can give the baby formula. Now I can drink. And I was like, oh, this is great. And that was in 2008, I realized I had a problem.
Okay, 2008. Yeah, because I understand that I've spoken to a number of people, and at least one or two of the women have said to me that they weren't able to stop drinking during their pregnancy, but you're still able to do that. Is that right?
Yeah, I had to. I just felt like, I don't know if I could do that today, but I mean, I would like to say that I could. I just felt like it had to be. I had to stop. And, I had like one last hurrah, and then that was it. I didn't drink until 18 months later each time.
Okay, so you went out with a bang.
Yeah, I would go have margaritas and stuff. And my husband at the time would say, "This is your last drink. This is it." And I'd go, "I know." And then, I would stop.
So it sounds to me is that he knew that drinking was a large part of your life. Is that accurate?
I think it worried him, but he never really would come right and say it. His idea of saying was, "You need to stop drinking."
Yeah. So did it ever cause any issues between you two?
Not particularly. It didn't until we were going through a divorce.
I understand. And so you said you realized you had a problem in 2008. How old were you then?
So I had my baby at 42. I was 44, I think.
You're 44?
And I had 4 little kids, all under the age of 12.
Okay. I guess that's a long drinking career. So you realized at 2008 that you had a problem. I mean, I realized about a year or so before I stopped drinking, I had a problem. But in hindsight, looking back, I realized I had a big problem a long time before that.
I started to question it. I started to worry about it. And I used to follow this blog. I can't remember, but once in a while she'd say, post something anonymously that you're worried about or, that you need advice on. And mine was always, I can't stop drinking. I'm worried about my drinking. And that was a good 2 years before I realized I had to get sober. And even when I realized I had to get sober, I still continued to drink for another 3 years, a hard 3 years.
Yeah. Were you a daily drinker?
Oh, gosh, yeah. I kept it on beside my bedside. I constantly had it in my body, yeah.
So it was the second you woke up, you're drinking?
Yeah, and if I went out to go to the bathroom at night, I was drinking. It was on my nightstand.
Wow. How many drinks would you have a day? I don't know how they measure it over in the US, but we have like a standard drink here. So like a beer might be 1.2, 1.3 standard drinks, depending on the strength.
You guys have the handles over there?
The handles?
Yeah, vodka bottles of handles.
No.
1.7 liters or gallons or something.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I know what 1.7 liters is. Yes. And a gallon is, about 4 liters.
Okay, so I would go through about 3/4 of a gallon a day of vodka.
Okay,
It's a lot.
So that's fairly serious. That would be up to about 30 to 40 standard drinks a day.
Maybe, I don't know. I mixed my booze with energy drinks, so I could not be so drunk and I could still maintain in public.
Okay. Did you ever get to the point where you're hiding your drinking from your families and friends?
Oh, gosh, yeah. That last year that I was still married, I was separated, but we were all living together. Yeah, and I hid it all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I used to hide it a lot, but I'd always get busted from either my kids or my wife, and the fallout was terrible.
Yeah, my kids would bust me, but I used to keep it in the dryer because, nobody expects to find booze in the dryer.
No,
right?
that's a good one. It's a good job I'm not drinking anymore because during these times I would often find I get a lot of good tips about where to hide things and where to put things.
Back of the toilet tank.
Yeah.
In the tampon box. I mean, yeah.
What's the most extreme length you went to get a drink?
So I hitched a ride across town on the off chance that I would find my old neighbor at home and to borrow some money. But most of the time I shoplifted my booze.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, shoplifted all the time.
Yeah. It's amazing the lengths that you go to actually get drunk. Look, with the amount you're consuming, did you need medical intervention to stop, or were you able to stop by yourself?
So the last year that I was drinking, I ended up in the hospital twice. I almost died. The first time I tried to quit drinking, I did need medical intervention and I was under a doctor's care, but that didn't work. And it wasn't until I ended up going to an outpatient facility, a 12-step program, I was able to wean myself off of it.
Okay. So you weren't able to stop like cold turkey. You had to gradually step down?
Yeah, because it was so detrimental for my health. Yeah. I was afraid I was going to have a seizure. I'd already been in the hospital twice because I was having withdrawals so bad. My blood pressure would go sky high.
Yeah. I remember the first time I went to the doctor and I was finally honest with the amount I actually drank, because I always used to say, 1 or 2 a week. And, they'll do the blood test and be like, oh, this level's a bit high. And look, I know now that he knew exactly that I was drinking a hell of a lot more than what I was telling him. But then then I was finally honest and said, look, this is how much I'm drinking.
Yeah.
And he said to me, you're not allowed to stop yet. He goes, you got to slowly wean yourself off. And, you know, I guess to an alcoholic, that was just, I've got a license to drink. I could keep on going. And that's exactly what I did do.
Yeah.
So after looking for help, how long did it take you to stop drinking?
A whole year.
So it took you a year to wean yourself off of it and step off?
Yeah. I kept relapsing, but the relapses got shorter and shorter. I mean, longer and longer.
Yeah,
so,
between. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, like the last time I drank, and then I had been sober like 74 days, and then I relapsed, and I was out for like a week, and then I just went back in. So it took me a while to put 30 days together, and, you know, then that last time, 74 days. I remember doing some dangerous things that night and realizing I have got to stop, and I toasted myself. So dramatic, you know. Here's to you. This has got to stop. You're going to die.
Yeah.
So, you know.
No, I understand. It's a tough road. It's really, really hard. And look, like even when you're talking, it takes me back to those days where you just have that anxiety and fear around how can I stop? It takes over your whole life.
Yeah. And it was embarrassing. And I got where I couldn't leave the house because I couldn't maintain my sobriety long enough to be out in public. You know, I was just a big drunk. That's all there was to it.
Yeah.
It was just a big drunk.
So what problem were you trying to solve and covering up with alcohol, do you think, now that you've got the benefit of 14 years sobriety, that you can look back and go, what was I? Were you running from something? Were you hiding from something? Was there a reality that you didn't want to face that caused you to drink that much?
Trauma for one, and the other one was the fact that I was in a very unhappy marriage and in the closet for all of that time. Once I came out of the closet and asked my husband for a divorce, I got to be who I felt like I needed to be. I got to be open and honest without any judgment about who I was. And when I went into my 12-step program, I found nothing but love and acceptance.
So you were in a heterosexual relationship, but you were actually a lesbian, is that right?
Yes.
And so you were living, I guess, a life that you consider a lie for many years of your life. Is that correct?
I was definitely living a lie, and everything on the outside looked perfect. Absolutely perfect. And no one knew, not even my best friend. And I was just in hell.
Wow. That must have been so hard for you.
It was very hard. Yeah, because my mom was very homophobic. Most of my family was very homophobic. It was very hard to live that lie, but it also got harder and harder to not be who I was. So it got where I was suicidal over it. I had to come out for my own mental health.
Who do you think was the most affected by your drinking apart from yourself, and why?
My children.
Yeah? And you got 4 children?
Yes, my 2 oldest boys. My 2 youngest children, they don't remember me drinking. They've never seen me. I'm sure they have, they just don't remember it. But most of their life has been with me being in a program and being sober. But hands down, my 2 oldest boys.
What was it like when you had to do your amends step with them?
With my children?
Yeah.
Very emotional. All of us went to counseling. It took a lot of talking. And at first they didn't want to hear it because I had let them down. Because for, 8 and 12 years of their life, I had been this mom that was a soccer mom and all this. And then all of a sudden she starts drinking, there's a divorce. And so they weren't too happy with me. But the more I was in my program and the more I worked my program and I showed up for them and they realized she's doing what she's saying she's doing. We really had to work hard on it. I did, especially, and I could say that if any of my kids should not talk to me, it should be my 2 older boys. And they're my biggest supporters.
It's so tragic that the people who love us the most often suffer the most when we go down these paths.
Right. And, I was doing the same thing to them that my dad did to me. And it killed me, it killed me to see the disappointment in their eyes because it was just almost unbearable. But I think counseling is very important. If you have a family that has someone who's addicted to something, family counseling, one-on-one counseling, I can't stress that enough.
So you mentioned your father. Would you categorize him as an alcoholic, or has he?
No, he was an alcoholic until he died at 39.
Oh, so he died quite young.
Mm-hmm.
Was it an alcohol-related disease that he died from?
It was an accident.
Yeah.
But his drinking had very much a lot to do with it. It definitely contributed to the accident.
Yeah. Another lady shared that her father passed away. It was labeled as a drowning accident. He was in his, 60s, 70s, but he was drunk and he thought he could bodyboard in Hawaii.
Yeah, let's just say it was similar to that.
Yeah, I guess we know about the more publicized reasons why people die of drinking, cirrhosis of the liver, the different health things, the different long-term medical complications, but like the accidents and the stuff that get reported as accidents, we don't really see that as, I guess, alcohol related. The amount of funerals I've gone to where people have ended their own lives that have been in the program, it's sad. It's really sad.
Yeah, it's very sad. It's a horrible addiction. It's a horrible, horrible disease that destroys families. It's just heartbreaking.
Yeah. So before we started recording, you mentioned that you're a part of AA, and you said that AA definitely solved your life. So
Life. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. While we recognise there's many other ways you can get sober as well, AA is one path to get there. What was your first time in the AA rooms like? How did you find that? Hi everyone. I hope you've enjoyed the show so far. This podcast is all about sharing real stories of resilience, recovery and hope. Stories that remind us that we're not alone in this journey. If you'd like to support this work and help us reach more people, there are a few simple ways you can make a difference. Take a moment to like this episode, leave a comment, or share it with someone who you think might benefit from hearing it, whether it's a friend, family member, or somebody in your recovery community. Your support could touch the lives and inspire someone in their road to sobriety. Your stories are important. They remind us that we are not alone and help us all stay sober. What we're doing here creates a space where people can share their experiences, feel understood, and find inspiration to keep moving forward. By supporting the show, you're helping to amplify those voices and ensure that more people who need to find this message can. If you'd like to share your story and be interviewed, please email me at beyondsobrietyaa@gmail.com. Every journey is unique, and your experience could be exactly what someone needs to hear to find hope, strength, or inspiration. This podcast thrives on real stories from real people, and your voice has the power to make a difference in somebody's life. Don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to connect and discuss how your story can be a part of Beyond Sobriety. Thank you for your support. Together we can continue to make a difference. Now, let's get back to the episode.
So I had a lot of defenses up and I was very, very angry because I did not want to be a part of this. I didn't want to be a part of this group. And I thought, well, maybe these people, they can teach me how to drink like a lady. I haven't been able to drink like a lady since I started, right? And so...
There's 7 and 7s, huh?
Yeah. People in AA are huggers.
Yes.
And I am not a hugger. And I was a very angry person. And these people were coming up to me wanting to hug me. And I was just like, I had my no trespassing sign up. No, thank you. So anyway, I wouldn't let them hug me. And I'll be forever grateful that AA allowed me to bring my kids. So the people, they were very smart. They would talk to my kids and give them crayons and sodas. And they started talking to my kids. And I thought, these people can't be too bad if they're going to be nice to my kids. So they weren't stupid. They figured, the way to my heart is to talk to my kids. And I didn't want to be there because I didn't want to be an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Very angry. And I kept saying, I'm so angry. How am I going to throw parties without alcohol? How am I going to go to a wedding? But I loved it from the very beginning.
No, it's amazing that even though we're separated by a massive ocean and, half the globe, the AA experience is completely universal, no matter what your culture is. I've spoken to people who have gotten sober in India, as well as here where I am in Australia, and the love and the acceptance that's in those rooms is unparalleled.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and I always say your path to recovery is your own journey, you know, however you get sober, whether in church or out there in the forest and Mother Nature, that's your personal business. It's everyone's personal journey. And I'm not here to judge how the person got sober.
Oh, absolutely. If somebody can stop drinking, that's a real goal. But what I love about the AA program is that it addresses the underlying issues as to why you would drink. Because if I just stop drinking, I'll just be a miserable sober person as opposed to a miserable drunk.
Right. No one wants a dry drunk.
No. Did you try anything else before you tried AA?
No. I had a friend who knew about AA and I was really mad and said, I got to get sober. I don't know what to do. And he's like, I know this place where you can go. So he took me. And so I did not try anything before that.
Okay, excellent. Well, if it works, why try anything else?
Yeah. Now, my sister went more the spiritual route. She got really involved in her recovery in her church.
Okay.
So,
yeah, it's sometimes that works for people. Now, you don't really probably know much of my story, but I've been very active and involved in my church my entire life, yet I still was able to somehow become an alcoholic. And I guess I needed to expand my view on God, because the God I knew, would worship and would, come to church every Sunday and teach people about. I wasn't able to get help from that. And it wasn't until I walked into a room of people, and look, I guess I'm a little bit ashamed to admit this, I was judging them. They were talking about God, and yet they were swearing, they didn't look right, they didn't act right. And I was there going, who are these people to talk about God? But it was there that I was able to find sobriety, and that really humbled me immensely.
Right. Well, I didn't want a part of AA too, because I thought they were, cult and they used God. And I didn't want any part of, worshiping a bearded sky daddy. I didn't want any part of that at all. And they said to me, get a higher power that you can do business with. And that really stuck with me. And so I leaned towards more the Buddhism and nature and, the universe. And once I realized it didn't have to be about the same God that everyone else was talking about, then I was able to open my mind.
Yes. No, absolutely. And look, especially where you grew up, is that considered the Bible Belt of America? It's fairly evangelical, isn't it?
No, it's farm country. It's not really the Bible Belt, but it was farm country. Okay. So a lot of the things that the good old boys did were to fish and hunt, and it was pretty traumatic for me.
Would you say alcohol was a large part of the culture of the society you grew up in?
On my dad's side of the family, absolutely.
What were some of the things that you were afraid of that you uncovered during some of your work?
When getting sober?
Yeah, like I was petrified of getting sober. I didn't know how I'd get out of bed without a drink.
Yeah, that was the thing. I would go to AA and I would complain. Halloween's my favorite holiday. How am I ever going to go trick-or-treating without a drink? I just couldn't fathom it. I thought I was going to be the most boringest person ever. I wasn't even close to being 50. And I was like, how am I going to throw a 50 party for myself? I was just a big whiner. I think I just thought I wouldn't be any fun, or I wouldn't know how to have fun. I had more fun sober than I ever did drinking.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? It's a deeper level of appreciation for everything.
And also, I'm not getting injured all the time. I used to have black eyes, and I fall in the gutter. It just was a lot.
I can imagine, absolutely. Can you tell me about the last time you attempted to drink, and how did you overcome that?
So very rarely has this ever happened to me, but it did happen to me about 2 or 3 months ago. I was out at a club, and we don't go out that often. And when we do, nothing ever bothers me. Nothing. And I am not the one usually that goes up and orders the drinks. But at this time I was. And the person I was with was not able to go up and get the drinks for themselves because they were disabled. So I was ordering drinks unbeknownst to me, and they had tequila in them. And so here they are in front of me. My fingers were touching it, the aroma. I wanted to drink so bad. And I was like, nobody will know if I drink. Nobody will know. I can just take this drink right now. Nobody's going to know. Who's going to know? And that scared me. It scared me that I was willing to throw away almost 14 years of sobriety. And what happened was I said to myself, you cannot just have one drink. So what are you going to do when you get home? Well, you're going to stop at the liquor store and get a bottle, and then your wife's going to know. How do you think you're going to hide this from your family and your wife? She said if I ever relapse, she'd leave. How are you going to do that? So tools, I guess. Thinking it through, talking it through. And I should have been honest with this person. And I should have said, I'm not comfortable, we should go. But I always feel like, it shouldn't be about me and my problems and my triggers. It should be about the other person. It's their good time. I don't want to ruin it for anyone.
Yeah.
But next time we go out, there's definitely going to have to be a discussion and some safeguards in place for me. And I know that. Like, order your own drink. If you can't do it, get someone else to do it because I can't do it.
Yeah. No, there's just so much there in that. I love that story because I can relate so much. Like, COVID was a big thing because every time you use those alcohol hand wipes to kill the germs,
yes,
that aroma just hits you
tequila.
And it takes you right back.
Right back. Tequila, for sure.
Yeah.
My mouth still waters. Yeah.
Oh, look, I sit there and my wife looks at me and I go, I put my hands to my nose, I take a deep breath in, and she goes, what are you doing? I said, oh, nothing. And she's like, you got a problem. I said, sweetheart, you don't know how many problems I've got. I've got a lot of problems.
I never wanted to be like my dad.
Yeah.
It's so sad. But when I realized I was drinking, on the day that I realized things were really out of control, I remember looking in the mirror and toasting myself and saying, congratulations, you're just like your dad. You're just a drunk. That was hard.
Yeah, I get it. I used to look in the mirror before I went to work and I'd say the most horrible things about myself. Like, I'd swear at myself because I'd turn into somebody I hated. And it sounds like you can really relate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So what's some of your high points in sobriety?
My high points. My life today is wonderful. I got married, which I said I would never, ever do again. I have a wonderful wife. My kids are all grown and happy and healthy, and I have a wonderful grandbaby.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. I don't have to look over my shoulder. If I get pulled over, it's because I'm speeding or, I'm not having to lie. I used to lie so much, constantly was lying for no reason, just to lie, and I don't have to hide who I am anymore or worry about who's going to find my booze and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't have to wake up hungover.
No, absolutely. It's amazing how much you do lie when you're in active addiction. Like I'll try and explain something to my wife and she's like, yeah, but you lied. And I was like, yeah, of course I did. Like, why would you expect me not to lie about that? Like that was more confusing to me than anything else.
Right. Yeah. And that's just, my wife has taught me so much. And I wouldn't have been able to be happily married if I didn't have the program, because I was not an honest person before. And, you have to take a good hard look at yourself.
Yeah. Do you do the daily reflections and, take a diary of gratitude or anything like that?
Yes, I do morning meditation with my coffee. I do daily reflections. And then I have another book that I read. It's for women.
Can you share a specific moment or experience from the time in AA that has been particularly meaningful for you?
Gosh, there are so many. The year I got sober, I didn't have Christmas for my kids. And I don't think anyone knew it in AA. And I was told just to make sure that I'm home on a Friday night. And 2 or 3 people from AA brought a tree over and a bunch of gifts for my kids just because they could. I never said I'm poor, I can't give Christmas to my kids. I never said any of that.
Yeah.
There's just been so many beautiful moments.
That's what a blessing. I've heard of people saying that they were scared of losing their friends when they got sober. But, I think the people that we pick up along the way in our journey they're just better people. Is that the right way to say it? Or how would you put it?
That we're better people now?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say we're better people now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely better. I think we're more trustworthy. We can hold down jobs now. It's just amazing. And my sobriety has opened up a whole new door career-wise for me. I work in behavioral health. I work with a lot of women. I facilitate groups at my work, and I work in their substance abuse program.
Okay. Do you sponsor people?
Not right now, I don't.
Okay.
I just had knee surgery last week, so I'm getting over that. I do a lot of giving back through my job, so I think that serves the big need in me and feeds my soul, like sponsoring does.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I've never sponsored anybody, and that might be because I take way too long to do the 12 steps. I'm not sure. But this is hard. Yeah, look, it is hard, especially when you got to look at yourself honestly.
Well, and it's hard to be a good sponsor. You have to have the time. And I'm an empath, and so when you first get sober, man, you're a hot mess.
Oh, yeah.
Hot mess. And then for someone else to put that on you, I think you have to be a certain kind of person to be able to sponsor and not take all that on.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely difficult. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Like I would call my sponsor 2 to 3 times a day in my early days, and he sponsors, 2 to 3 different people at a time. And I go, nah, not for me. I'm happy to do this. I can set an appointment. I can talk to somebody, and hopefully this makes an impact.
Yeah. I always tell people I'll be your temporary sponsor, until you can find someone.
Yeah.
I can fill in the gaps for you. They suck the life out of you sometimes. Where would we be if we had no one to sponsor us? And so that's the way I think about it. My way of giving back is to facilitate the groups that I do at work.
Yeah.
I have a Facebook page called Tales of a Former Drunk, and I have a good following on that. And so that's my way of giving back.
Yeah, that's what I like about the AA program. There's no rules. Like, there's only one way to do it wrong, and that's to continue drinking. But as long as you're not drinking and you're coming, that's a crutch of it. Did you have a time where you told people about your drinking?
Well, I mean, my family knew I was going to AA and I was sober, and that was a lot to be celebrated. But when people ask me, can they buy me a drink or do I want to drink? I always say stuff like, oh, honey, you don't want to drink with me. I'll drink you under the table. I kind of just joke about it a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't hide that I'm in recovery. I just say, if they're pushy, I say I'm in recovery. And then they get really like, oh, sorry. Because, as drunks, we don't like to drink alone.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Did you ever find any stigma surrounding being an alcoholic? Like when you were getting drunk, like did anybody treat you any differently when you were not drinking?
No, I didn't. I had pretty much burned all the bridges with my drinking buddies by either having corrupt behavior and taking my drinking too far. So the people that were still left in my life, like my best friend, I've known her since we were 19. No, nothing but congratulations and support. I was very lucky.
That's excellent. That's really good. Can you describe your rock bottom? How was your rock bottom?
So my rock bottom, after I had 74 days of sobriety, and I was with this person and we got into a fight and I used it as an excuse to drink. I had no money. I had no car. I had no nothing. And I was always the person that used to take off. I would just take off. You'd be talking to me and I'd just take off, go to a bar, go whatever. So I took off walking. It was nighttime and I went to my favorite grocery store. And not only did I shoplift a bottle of vodka, but also a donut and a paperback book because, that's a great combination, don't you think? I mean, where's my thinking in that, right?
Yeah.
And so I go behind the grocery store and I'm looking for a place to hide. Where am I going to hide so I can drink this liquor? So I found a dumpster. Now, I prided myself on the fact that it was only a cardboard dumpster for the grocery stores. Was not any of that debris in there. So I thought it was okay, So I climbed into that dumpster. I was there till about 3:00 in the morning. And I remember thinking, I have all I need right here. When I came to and when I climbed out of that dumpster and walked home, I walked the wrong way on a freeway ramp. And I thought, you're going to kill yourself. You are absolutely going to kill yourself. And your children are going to grow up with your ex-husband and they're not going to have a good memory of you or nothing. They don't deserve that. You have got to get sober. So that was my bottom.
That's incredible. I mean, most people just hit a metaphorical low, but you actually ended up in the dumpster.
Oh no, I was full on in the dumpster, and I was proud of myself that there was no debris. Well, at least it's not a garbage dumpster.
Oh, look, yeah, you got to have standards. You wouldn't be in a garbage dumpster.
Right. Who wants to be in the lettuce dumpster? So I thought, okay, well, it's not too bad, right? So that was my rock bottom.
Wow. It speaks to the madness that goes on in our heads to justify how or what and how we get a drink. The lies and I guess the levels that you're willing to go to.
Yeah.
Looking back on your journey so far, what are you most proud of your accomplishments of being sober?
That I have integrity, morals, that I'm an honest person and I don't have to lie anymore or hide who I am.
Excellent. And what advice would you have for anybody that is stuck in active addiction?
You just got to keep trying. Whatever it is, if you can't get sober on your own, and you want to go to church or you want to go to AA, you just have to have the ability to reach out. Say, I need help. I can't do this on my own. Just keep trying. Don't give up. Don't give up.
Excellent. Look, thank you so much, Denise. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you and hearing your story. Would you like to close us out with a serenity prayer, please?
Yes, I would. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today on Beyond Sobriety. Just before we wrap up, I'd like to leave you with a gentle reminder. If you happen to recognize anyone who shared their story on this podcast, I urge you to respect their anonymity and privacy. Let's create a safe space where individuals can feel empowered to share their experience without fear of judgment or disclosure. And if you found today's episode helpful or inspiring, I encourage you to share Beyond Sobriety with somebody who might benefit from it. Together we can spread awareness, support and hope to those still struggling with alcohol addiction. Remember, your feedback is invaluable to us. If you have any thoughts, suggestions, or stories you'd like to share, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at beyondsobrietyaa@gmail.com. Thank you once again for tuning in. Until next time, stay strong, stay sober, and remember, you're not alone in this journey. I'm Michael, and I'm an alcoholic.